Fear is the most expensive addiction you will ever have. It doesn't just live in your mind. It controls your decisions, shapes your habits, and writes the story of your life without your permission. And the most dangerous part? You feed it. Every time you play it safe instead of stepping forward, you feed it. Every time you tell yourself, "Not now," you feed it. Every time you choose comfort over courage, you feed it. At first, fear whispers. It sounds like it's protecting you. But the more you obey it, the louder it gets, until one day, it's not just a voice in the back of your head. It's the one making all of your decisions for you. Picture this. You get an opportunity. It scares you. So you hesitate. You tell yourself, "I'll think about it." A day passes, then a week, then a month. The opportunity is gone. And you comfort yourself by saying, "It wasn't the right time anyway." But deep down, you know the truth. It wasn't the timing. It was the fear. And the cruel thing about fear is that it doesn't need to be true to control you. It just needs to be loud. If you're hearing this and already feeling that pull inside you, don't just nod and move on. Stay with me. Subscribe now, because this is where we take back control together, one choice at a time. I want you to think back to the last time you didn't do something you wanted to do, simply because fear told you not to. Maybe it was applying for the job you really wanted. Maybe it was telling someone how you truly felt. Maybe it was making a change you've been dreaming about for years. In that moment, fear felt like a safety net. But in reality, it was a cage. And cages have a way of feeling comfortable. Until one day you realize you've been pacing in circles for years, staring at the same walls, breathing the same stale air, convincing yourself that this is just how life is. Stephen Covey once said, "Most of us spend too much time on what is urgent and not enough time on what is important." Fear tricks you into believing that avoiding discomfort is urgent, that playing it safe is important, that you'll get to the rest later. But later never comes. I've watched people waste entire decades feeding their fears. They never call it that. They call it being practical, responsible, realistic. But peel back the layers, and it's fear wearing a mask. And here's the truth no one wants to face. If you don't stop feeding your fears, you will spend your entire life building their future instead of your own. So today, we're going to do something different. We're going to starve your fears. We're going to cut off their supply. And in the empty space they leave behind, we're going to build something stronger. A vision so clear, so compelling, that fear no longer gets a vote in how you live your life. This isn't about never feeling fear again. Fear will always be there. But it's about refusing to give it the power to dictate who you become. And it all starts right now. I need to be brutally honest with you. If you don't stop feeding your fears now, they will keep growing until they consume every part of your life. You will wake up 12 months from today in the exact same place you are now. Same frustrations, same doubts, same invisible walls holding you back. And the longer you let fear lead, the smaller your world will become. Time does not heal fear. It strengthens it. Every single day you avoid what scares you, you're pouring concrete over your own potential. And with each layer, it becomes harder and harder to break free. You might be telling yourself, "I'm fine. I can handle it. I'll change when things get bad enough." But here's the dangerous truth. Fear rarely feels urgent. It's a slow, quiet poison. It convinces you that good enough is safe. It tells you that you can wait. And waiting is exactly what it needs you to do. The real danger isn't when your life is falling apart. It's when it's just comfortable enough to keep you from moving. Stephen Covey said it best. You can't talk your way out of a problem you behaved your way into. If your actions don't change, your results won't either. And there is nothing more heartbreaking than realizing you could have built the life you wanted, but you didn't. Think about this. How many chances have you already lost because you listened to fear? How many people have you wanted to talk to but stayed silent? How many times have you wanted to try something new, but fear convinced you to wait? Those moments are gone. They don't come back. And the scariest part? You probably can't even count them anymore. Fear has been teaching you to settle, teaching you to shrink your dreams until they fit the cage it built for you. And if you let it keep teaching, you will become its student for life. So here's the cost of doing nothing. Another year of your life, gone. Another 12 months of holding back. Another 365 days of looking at the same four walls and calling it living. I'm telling you this now because I don't want you to waste another day building a life for your fears instead of for yourself. I know what it's like to live with fear quietly running the show. To wake up and feel that heavy weight in your chest before you've even had your first thought of the day. To go through the motions, smile when you're supposed to, nod when people talk to you, all while a small voice inside whispers, "Don't risk it. Don't step out. Stay where it's safe." You tell yourself you're being smart. You tell yourself you're just waiting for the right moment. But deep down, you know the truth. You're stuck. And it's not because you're lazy or unmotivated. It's because fear has become a habit. Fear disguises itself as caution, as responsibility, as logic. It tells you you're making the wise choice by waiting, by holding back, by avoiding the unknown. And you believe it because the alternative feels terrifying. But here's what I learned. That fear doesn't go away on its own. If you don't face it, it multiplies. It starts making decisions for you. It chooses the jobs you don't apply for, the conversations you never have, the risks you never take. It convinces you that the life you have is the only life you can handle. I've been there, and I've watched other people live there for decades. People with dreams bigger than they ever admitted out loud. People who had the talent, the potential, the ability to create something extraordinary, but they never did because fear told them not to. And maybe you felt that too. You've had moments when you thought, "I'm going to do it this time." You started. You felt that spark. But then, a few days or weeks later, fear found its way back in. And slowly, without realizing it, you started listening to it again. Not because you're weak, not because you can't change, but because no one ever taught you how to stop feeding it. And that's what we're doing here today. We're going to cut off fear's food supply. We're going to give your future more power than your fear has ever had. And when you do that, everything changes. You can't stop feeding your fears until you realize what you've actually been feeding them with. Fear doesn't grow by magic. It grows because we keep giving it exactly what it needs. Our attention, our imagination, and our trust. And until you see how that works in your own life, you'll keep doing it without even realizing. Let me give you an example. Years ago, I knew a man who wanted to start his own business. He talked about it constantly, the freedom it would give him, the passion he had for the work, the life he imagined building. But every time the opportunity came up, he'd find a reason not to start. The economy's not great right now. I need more savings. I'm not ready yet. On the surface, those reasons sounded smart. But in reality, they were just well-dressed excuses. And every time he repeated them, he was handing fear another meal. Fear thrives on delay. It feeds on later. And the worst part? He didn't even see it. In his mind, he was being cautious and strategic. But in reality, he was letting fear set the schedule for his dreams. That's the first thing you need to see. Fear is not just an emotion. It's a relationship. One where you are the provider and fear is the consumer. And the more you provide, the more it consumes. Stephen Covey once said, "We see the world not as it is, but as we are." When fear is in control, you don't just see risk, you live inside it. You interpret every unknown as danger, every challenge as a threat, every new path as something to be avoided. And that interpretation guides your choices, day after day, without you even questioning it. So here's what I want you to do. Starting today, begin tracking your fear triggers. Every time you hesitate, every time you back out of something you wanted to do, every time you choose the safe option without even considering the bold one, write it down. Not to shame yourself, not to judge yourself, but to expose the invisible pattern. Because once you start noticing how often fear is making your choices for you, you'll be shocked at how deeply it has its hands in your life. I had a client who did this exercise for just 1 week. By the end of those 7 days, she realized that fear was behind her decision not to speak up in meetings, not to post her ideas online, not to start the side project she'd been thinking about for years. And here's the kicker. She thought she was just being practical, but practicality was just fear in a business suit. And when she saw that clearly, something shifted. Because you can't fight what you can't see. And once you see it, you can start taking its power away. That's why recognition is the first pillar. If you don't know what you've been feeding your fear, you'll keep putting food in its mouth every single day without realizing it. But the moment you start seeing the pattern, the moments, the thoughts, the choices where you hand it another meal, that's when you can finally start saying, no more. Think of it like this. Fear is a stray dog. It keeps coming back because you keep leaving food outside your door. The day you stop feeding it is the day it starts looking elsewhere. And yes, at first, it will bark louder. It will claw at the door. It will try to get your attention in every way it can. But if you hold your ground, if you stop putting food in the bowl, eventually it leaves. So today, your job is simple. Notice. Notice where you're feeding fear. Notice when you're about to hand it another excuse, another delay, another retreat. And in that moment, pause. Ask yourself, is this really me talking? Or is this my fear trying to get fed? That single pause can be the first crack in fear's control over your life. And from that crack, a completely different future can start to grow. Once you recognize how you've been feeding your fears, the next step is simple in theory, but hard in practice. Cut off their food supply. Fear doesn't survive on its own. It needs constant input from you. It needs your thoughts, your attention, your imagination, especially your worst-case scenarios. It needs the conversations you have that reinforce it. It needs the places, the people, and the routines that keep it comfortable. If you stop giving it those things, it will start to weaken. But here's the truth. In the beginning, it will fight back. Think of it like breaking an addiction. When you take away the thing that's been in control for years, there's going to be resistance, withdrawal, an urge to go back just once. Fear will tell you, you can't cut me off completely. You need me to be safe. That's the first lie you have to stop believing. Stephen Covey once said, if you want to make small changes, work on your behavior. If you want to make big changes, work on your paradigms. Cutting off fear's food supply is a paradigm shift, a complete rewiring of what you feed your mind and how you live your life. Let me give you a story. I knew a woman who wanted to make a career change. Every day, she thought about it. Every day, she told herself she needed a plan. But instead of acting, she fed her fear by reading articles about how risky it was to change jobs. She talked to people who told her horror stories about failing. She spent hours imagining how badly it could go. She thought she was researching, but really, she was serving fear 3 full meals a day. Then, she decided to do something radical. For 1 month, she stopped reading anything about job market instability. She stopped talking to people who only warned her about failure. She replaced that time with researching people who had successfully made the kind of change she wanted. She studied their stories, their habits, their strategies. In 1 month, her fear didn't disappear, but it got quiet enough for her to finally take the first step. That's the point. You don't have to kill fear instantly. You just have to weaken it enough so it stops driving the car. You can start by auditing your inputs, everything you read, watch, and listen to daily. Ask yourself if it fuels courage or fear. Audit your conversations, who you talk to about your dreams, and whether they lift you higher or plant more doubt. Audit your environment, whether it surrounds you with reminders of your potential or anchors you to past failures. Fear feeds on repetition. If it hears the same story of danger and failure over and over again, it will keep believing it's true, and so will you. Your job is to break that repetition. Think of fear like a campfire. If you keep adding wood, it will burn all night. But if you stop feeding it, it will start to die out. It won't happen instantly. The embers will still glow for a while. But without fuel, it has no choice but to fade. And yes, when you stop feeding the fire, it will get cold for a while. You'll feel the discomfort of not knowing. You'll feel the temptation to throw another log on, just so you can feel that familiar warmth of fear. Don't do it. That warmth isn't safety. It's control. So this week, choose one main food source your fear has been living on and cut it off completely. Not halfway. Not just a little less. Stop giving it that source entirely. It might be a type of content you consume. It might be a person whose words always plant doubt in you. It might be a habit of mentally rehearsing every bad thing that could happen. Whatever it is, cut it. You'll be surprised how quickly your fear starts to lose weight when it's no longer being fed. Cutting off fear's food supply is only half the battle. If you stop there, you'll end up with a vacuum, an empty space where fear used to live. And if you don't fill that space with something stronger, fear will come back. Every time. This is where most people fail. They remove the negative, but they don't replace it with the positive. They stop feeding fear, but they never start feeding courage. And courage, like fear, needs to be fed daily. Stephen Covey said, "You can't talk your way out of a problem you behaved your way into." Which means you also can't think your way into courage. You have to behave your way into it. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who had a crippling fear of speaking up in meetings. Every time he had an idea, fear whispered, "Don't say it. What if you're wrong? What if they judge you?" And so, for years, he stayed quiet. Then one day, he decided to make a simple rule for himself. In every single meeting, he would speak up at least once. Not because it would make him fearless overnight, but because he knew he had to feed courage with action. The first few times, his heart pounded. His hands shook. But he stuck to the rule. Week after week, month after month. And eventually, speaking up became normal. Not because the fear disappeared, but because courage got stronger than the fear. That's how it works. You don't kill fear by starving it alone. You weaken it by feeding its competition. Here's how you do it. Choose a courage ritual, one small action that represents the opposite of your fear. If you fear rejection, make one new connection every day. If you fear failure, start a small daily project where mistakes are part of the process. If you fear speaking, share one thought or idea every day, no matter how small. Then, make it non-negotiable. This is your daily courage meal. No matter how you feel, no matter how small it seems, you do it. And track your progress. Every time you feed courage, you're taking food away from fear. Think of it like going to the gym. The first time you lift a weight, it feels heavy, awkward, even a little ridiculous. But if you keep showing up, keep doing the reps, your muscles grow. Eventually, the weight that used to feel impossible becomes easy. Courage works the same way. Most people wait for courage to appear before they act. That's why they wait forever. They think, when I feel brave, then I'll do it. But that's like saying, when I'm strong, then I'll go to the gym. No, you go to the gym to get strong. You take action to get brave. And here's the loop I want you to remember. Every time you feed courage with action, fear loses a little more of its grip on you. The more you feed one, the less you feed the other. I had a client who used to panic every time she had to make a phone call to a potential client. She would put it off for days, sometimes weeks. We created a rule. Every morning, before checking email, she had to make one call. Just one. At first, she dreaded it. But after 30 days, she no longer thought twice about picking up the phone. Not because fear had vanished, but because she had been feeding courage every single day until it became her default. So here's your challenge. Pick your courage ritual today. Make it something you can do in 10 minutes or less. Do it every day for the next 30 days without fail. And watch what happens. You'll notice that courage doesn't show up all at once. It builds. Slowly, quietly. But one day, you'll look back and realize the thing that used to scare you doesn't own you anymore. And that's the moment you'll know you've stopped feeding your fears and started building your future. Fear is sneaky. It doesn't always walk in the front door announcing itself. Sometimes it slips in quietly, dressed up as logic, caution, or even politeness. And if you're not paying attention, it will take over before you realize it's even in the room. That's why the fourth step in starving fear is training your mind to catch it the moment it appears. Not hours later, not days later, but in real time. Think of it like a computer virus. The longer it runs undetected, the more damage it does. But if you have the right antivirus, if you can spot the first sign of intrusion, you can stop it before it spreads. Let me tell you a story. I knew a man who had always dreamed of running a marathon. He trained hard for months, but as the race day got closer, fear started to whisper. What if you don't finish? What if you embarrass yourself? What if you get injured? At first, he didn't notice it as fear. It sounded reasonable, like he was just being realistic. But over the next few days, He started training less. Then he skipped a few runs. By the week before the race, he had convinced himself he wasn't ready and decided not to run at all. Looking back, he realized the decision wasn't based on reality. It was based on fear he didn't catch in time. Stephen Covey said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response." That space is where you catch fear. But you have to train yourself to notice it. When you feel hesitation, pause and ask yourself, is this hesitation or is this fear? Naming it takes away part of its power. Notice if it's wearing a disguise, logic, caution, humility. And once you recognize it, take a small, bold action immediately. Say yes to the invitation. Make the call. Take the first step toward the thing you're avoiding. It's like catching a thief in your house. The moment you see them, you don't just watch them, you act. In the beginning, you won't always catch fear in time. Sometimes it will slip past you. That's okay. The goal is to notice it earlier and earlier until you can spot it the second it knocks on the door. I had a client who realized that every time she was about to post something creative online, she would hear a voice say, "Maybe it's not good enough yet. You can post it later." That voice had stopped her for years. She started calling it out loud. That's fear talking. And without letting herself think twice, she posted anyway. Within weeks, fear's voice got quieter because it knew it couldn't win with her anymore. Once you start catching fear in real time, it loses the element of surprise. And when fear loses that, it starts losing you. The final step in starving your fears isn't a one-time act of bravery. It's making courage so normal, so automatic, that you no longer have to think about it. You just live it. Because fear is patient. It will wait for you to have a bad week, a stressful month, a low season in life, and then it will try to creep back in. If courage isn't a habit by then, fear will find its opening. Stephen Covey said, "The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities." Courage has to be one of those priorities every single day. Let me tell you about a woman I worked with. She had always been terrified of networking events. The thought of walking into a room full of strangers made her want to turn around and run. But she decided to take on a simple challenge. Every day, she would do one small thing that scared her. Some days it was sending an email to someone she admired. Some days it was making eye contact and saying hello to a stranger. Some days it was speaking up in a meeting. She tracked it. She wrote it down. And slowly, those daily acts stopped feeling like big leaps. They became part of her normal life. That's the secret. Courage has to stop being an event and start being a routine. You can do the same by choosing small daily actions that challenge you just enough to stretch you, anchoring them to parts of your day that already exist, and keeping track of your wins. Think of courage like a muscle. If you only work it occasionally, it stays weak. But if you work it every day, even in small ways, it grows stronger without you having to think about it. This is how you build what I call default courage. It's when you don't have to hype yourself up for every decision. You've trained yourself to act in alignment with your goals, not your fears. One day, you'll wake up and realize you haven't heard fear's voice in days. Not because fear has vanished, it never truly goes away, but because your actions no longer give it a seat at the table. The people who transform their lives aren't the ones who do something huge once in a while. They're the ones who do something small every single day and never stop. So make this your rule. One act of courage every day. No exceptions. No excuses. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be done. Because courage, when practiced daily, doesn't just protect you from fear. It builds a future where fear has no say at all. I want you to imagine something. It's 1 year from today. You wake up in the morning, open your eyes, and for a moment, you just stay there, staring at the ceiling. But something feels different. You're not dreading the day ahead. There's no heaviness pressing on your chest, no voice whispering that you're not ready, not good enough, not capable. You get up, look in the mirror, and it's still you staring back, but it's a you that feels solid, grounded, certain. You remember how it used to be. The hesitation, the endless second-guessing, the way fear used to creep into every decision and shrink your life one choice at a time. But somewhere along the way, you stopped feeding it. You stopped letting it run your life. And now, it's not the loudest voice in your head anymore. That version of you didn't appear overnight. It was built, choice by choice, day by day, in small moments when no one was watching, in decisions so quiet no one else even noticed. And that's the truth most people miss. Courage isn't built in big, dramatic leaps. It's built in the tiny, invisible acts you repeat every single day until they become who you are. Stephen Covey once said, "We become what we repeatedly do." If you keep repeating fear, you become fear. If you repeat hesitation, you become hesitation. But if you repeat courage, clarity, and action, you become unstoppable. I've seen this happen over and over again. People who were paralyzed by fear start taking one small brave action a day, and within months, their lives don't even look the same. The job they thought was impossible to get is now theirs. The relationships they were too afraid to pursue are now part of their daily life. The opportunities they used to watch pass by are now theirs to choose from. And here's what's even more powerful. Once you've lived this way for a while, fear stops feeling like a wall in front of you. It starts feeling like a shadow behind you, still there, but unable to touch you as long as you keep moving forward. So let me ask you, when you think about your life a year from now, which version of yourself do you want to meet? The one who kept feeding fear, who stayed in the same loops, telling the same stories, living the same days over and over again? Or the one who decided, right here, right now, that fear has been overfed for too long, and it's time to start building a future instead? Because the truth is, the version of you that you dream about isn't waiting for the right time to show up. They're waiting for you to start acting like them today. And the moment you do, everything changes. Fear has had enough of your energy, your imagination, your potential. It's time to reclaim all of it and put it where it belongs, into building the life you actually want. So here you are. You've seen exactly what fear takes from you and what happens when you stop feeding it. You've seen how to cut off its supply, how to replace it with fuel, how to catch it in the moment, and how to turn courage into something you live every single day. Now it's your choice. No one else can make it for you. No one else can walk into your life and flip the switch. You either keep giving fear your energy, or you start building something that's finally yours. And yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. You're breaking a pattern that's been in place for years, maybe decades. Fear will try to bargain with you. It will tell you to slow down, to wait, to think about it a little longer. That's its last trick. Don't fall for it. Because the moment you start acting anyway, that's when everything shifts. Stephen Covey said, "The key is in not spending time, but in investing it." Every decision you make from this moment forward is an investment, in fear or in your future. And here's what I know. If you take even one small, courageous action today, you'll prove to yourself that fear doesn't have the final say. And if you do it again tomorrow and the next day, you won't just change your days. You'll change who you are. So start today, not tomorrow, not when it feels easier, not when fear finally leaves, because it won't. Start with fear in the room. Start while your heart is pounding. Start while your hands shake. Start, and let action be the proof that you're already becoming the person you want to be. You've already taken the first step just by being here. The next step is to keep going. Keep showing up. Keep feeding courage until it's the loudest voice you hear. And when you do, you'll be ready for what comes next.